Shalom, Shalom, Israel, Shabbat Shalom, giving all praises, glory, and honor be to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? We do so with all authority in the name of the only begotten Son, who serves as an instrument of salvation, right, for his people, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. But Most High willing, you all are having a restful, peaceful Sabbath day, man. Most High willing, you all are meditating on the scriptures, man. Me and the brothers been on the screen meditating on the scriptures for some hours because we were supposed to do this lesson at 12:30 and ended up turning to 2:51. But that's what happens, man. On the Sabbath day, you want your conversation to be about biblical and holy things, man, not foolishness. You want to partake in things that lead you to do righteousness, especially on the day that, the Lord gave us for a rest. So, again, Most High willing, you all are just having a restful Sabbath, a peaceful Sabbath, and a Sabbath that brings you much knowledge and wisdom. Most High willing, this lesson is edifying, and that the Lord speaks through the brothers that you see on the screen. And this lesson is titled "Different Things for Different Purposes," based on the video that I was going to show, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna not show it because it's a rather long video. But pretty much, the video inspiration for this lesson came from me scrolling down Instagram and seeing a football coach, a football training coach, who was kind of dissing one aspect of training for another, right? So everyone who's ever played sports probably used an agility ladder before, right? I have one in my possession as well in the house. But everyone who's ever trained for sports used an agility ladder before. And what the coach was doing, the video he was making, he was pretty much saying that it's crazy that people think using an agility ladder will help you to make cuts in the open field, right? Now, mind you, again, I know it's the Sabbath, and I know how our people feel about sports on the Sabbath. So this is not a lesson to go into how to make your child a better athlete or how to, use the agility ladder to teach you to do things differently or better. This is a lesson to teach you to keep things into perspective. And sometimes you got to understand that different things serves different purposes, right? So if we could start with the book of Ecclesiastes 3. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 3 and let's start at verse number 1. Ecclesiastes 3 and 1. Con. So this yeah, we can hear you. Con. So this Ecclesiastes 3 and 1.
I was gonna say, Dan, you might want to read because I'm reading. If I read, it's gonna lag.
Ecclesiastes 3 and 1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven.
Right. So everything there is a season and a purpose, right? Everything there's a season and a purpose, right? Let's keep reading.
A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted.
Right. A time to plant and a time to pluck up which was planted. Let's keep reading.
A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up.
Right. So there are different times and different things for different reasons, right? When you're planting something, you're not looking to uproot the foundation of something. And when you're uprooting the foundation of something, you're not looking to build something all the time, right? Now, you may be doing that for the purpose of, I need to get this out the way so I can put something else back down. But at the same time, when you're uprooting, you're not planting at the same time, right? So you can jump down to verse number 9. Or we'll start at verse 8.
Con. A time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What profit has he that worketh in that wherein he laboreth?
Right. Now let's keep reading.
I have seen the travail which God has given to the sons of men to be exercised in it.
Wait, hold on. Scroll up, not scroll down. I would say scroll down. I would say Salakia. I'm trying to. It was a specific verse that I was trying to read. I thought it was. Let me see. Let me see. Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. Mm, dang, I thought I had the verse. But it was a specific verse that says something about purpose. It said for the purpose. Scrolls. Is that the last verse in the chapter 20? Um, let me see. Oh, there it is. 17. 17. Verse 17. Salakia. Verse
Khan,
17. It was at the end of the verse.
Khan. I said in my heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and for every work.
Right. So there's a time for every purpose in every work, right? Everything that you do in life, there's a time for it. There's a time when you should be kicking your feet up, relaxing and chilling. And there's also a time where you need to, put on your boots and go to work, man, and labor. The same thing is when it comes to training for sports, right? Again, don't want to offend any brother or sister who doesn't subscribe to playing Greek sports, teaching their children to do so. Um, this is just a lesson based on what I've seen from a coach who does participate in Greek sports and train children to do so. I played sports, right? So this is why I felt like I could relay this message because I can relate to it. When you play sports, especially as a child, as you get older, one thing you'll learn is that everything that you did in sports was to make you a better player. But every specific drill wasn't for every specific scenario on the field, right? Specifically football. There's a time when we would do 2 minute, right? When we're practicing, we're going through our schedule, we would do 2 minute. And there's a time when we would just do red zone, right? Now, red zone and 2 minute, we want the same end goal to score a touchdown. But the specific of 2 minute is you drive down the field in 2 minutes or less, whereas in red zone, it's specifically starting at the 20-yard line of the opponent. So that means that you're about to score, you're at the 20-yard line, and the goal line is 20 yards away, right? So the point I'm making is it's the same thing when it comes to spiritual gifts, when it comes to being in the spirit. Everything that we endure in the faith, right? Everything is always to make you a better servant, a better to make you more wise, to make you to grow your understanding. But every specific situation and scenario that you go through isn't for every single thing that you may face in life. For instance, if you're struggling to right, I say it like this: if you're coaching yourself up to remember precepts about fasting and prayer, it would be wrong for someone like myself or others to laugh at you and say, "You really think learning precepts about fasting and prayer is going to help you understand the simplest commandment that you need to keep, right? Or you think it's going to help you get you to the kingdom, learning these precepts like that when there are things that you need to go read in the law and prophets that, like, what I'm saying is that people are very meticulous and people like to pinpoint every little thing and try to debunk it because they feel like uh, there's something in your training regimen that should be pointed out and to make you a greater player in a sense. But we need to realize sometimes that everything has a purpose and everything has an appointed time to come to pass, right? So when it's time for you to uh, graduate into something different, then you will. But when it's time for you to be simple, you will be simple. And you need to appreciate the simple times because not only is the simple times going to make you a better player, but at the same time, the simple times are going to make you appreciative for the game. And I'm not talking about sports right now. I'm talking about life. This is what I mean exactly. Can we go to the book of first gosh dog First Corinthians I want to say First Corinthians 4. Let me make sure I'm in the right book. 1 Corinthians. It's that, or you could just type it in on King James Bible Online. You could just type it in on King James Bible Online, and you could just type it in. When I was a child, I thought as a child, and I spake as a child. That's the verse I'm looking for. I know it's in 1 Corinthians. I just can't remember the book and the chapter. I mean the chapter and the verse. 13 and 11. Gone.
Con. 1 Corinthians 13 and 11. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
Now, the reason that I want the brother to read this is because, again, we have to understand that as a child, there are going to be certain things that you're, I guess you could say, you're prone to do, right? You're prone to understand. For instance, can we go to 2 Corinthians? No, not 2 Corinthians. 1 Peter, I want to say 2 and 2. Let's go to 1 Peter 2 and 2. And there's also a verse that I'm looking for that says, would have fed Salakia, would have fed you with meat, KJV, something like that. Roughly pair. Oh, 1 Corinthians 3 and 2. Okay. So we can go to that after 1 Peter 2. And then we can go to 1 Corinthians 3 and 2.
First Peter 2 and 2. As newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby.
So the reason that we read 1 Corinthians 13 and now we're at 1 Peter 2, because as a child, you think, you speak, you act as a child. What does a child do? You know, a lot of times people don't understand. Children starting at birth drink milk, right? But then you got to understand that there's going to be a time where they're going to graduate from only drinking the milk. Now let's go back to 1 Corinthians, but let's go to the chapter 3. And you can just keep it big because we're going to hit probably about 2-3 verses in there. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, right? You can start at verse number 1.
First Corinthians chapter 3 and verse number 1. And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ.
Because I got to speak to you as children because you're a child. You got to be able to drink the milk. You got to desire the milk, right, of the word. There's a time to do that. And that time is when you're a child especially, right? Let's keep reading.
I have fed you with milk and not with meat, for hitherto ye were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able.
So you're still not even able to bear the meat that I have for you, which is why, again, we went to Ecclesiastes 3 to point out there's a time for everything and there's a purpose for everything under heaven. The purpose for a child drinking milk is because they're not able to chew the meat. If you give a child meat with no teeth or little to no teeth, they'll choke. And they'll probably take them out this earth, right? So there's a time that a child should be drinking milk. But there's also a time in development when you've graduated from the milk and you'll be on the meat, right? Let's read verse number 3.
Verse number 3. For ye are yet carnal, for whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are ye not carnal and walk as men?
Right. So you have to understand that there's a level of spirituality that you have to achieve before you're able to discern certain things. And that's why certain drills, certain scriptures, certain lessons are necessary for those who are still on the milk, right? For those who aren't able to devour the meat yet, for those who are still kind of carnal minded to an extent. Because at the end of the day, this Bible is like an onion. You got to peel it back layers at a time. And you can't just go straight to bread and meat from a child standpoint. The same way, relating it back to the video I got this from, when it comes to sports, the purpose of an agility ladder is not to teach you how to make open field moves, right? The purpose of an agility ladder, which a lot of young people start off using, is to teach a basic concept of learning footwork. Footwork is one of the things that people are going to have in life the most. Notice I said life, not in sports only, but in life. You're going to have to learn how to move your feet and get out of certain situations. You're going to have to learn to move your feet and make haste to flee from fornication. You're going to have to move your feet in order to do anything else. Because if you're not moving your feet at all, that means you're standing still, right? And if you're not, I guess you could say, progressing the kingdom or helping further the kingdom, you're contributing to destroying it, even if you're not moving at all. Even if you aren't pulling it backwards, if you're not moving forward with it, you're stagnant. The Lord can't use you, right? So I'm saying that to say that there's a time for things to happen and take place. And there's a specific reason that certain drills are done from children at a young age, those who may play sports. There's a reason that certain things, when you come into the truth, right? Even if you're 41 years old, when you come into this thing, there's a reason that you got to start off as a newborn babe, because ye are, right? If we can go to the book of Matthew 18, Matthew 18. Go ahead. You bring out your point.
I was gonna say, yeah, man. I don't know too much about football, but you can't just, tell a kid that's never played football, hey, put on this jersey, run this route, and he's never lined up. Yep, you got to teach the little kids how to line up on the line, how to be in a ready stance, what it means, what certain words mean, and certain drills mean to understand the game, right? And I'm saying that because in the passage that we just read, 1 Corinthians 3, he said, I fed you with milk and not with meat. Yeah, that would be like some of us coming into this truth and trying to teach this truth to people. We want them to get the meat of it. Ourselves want to get the meat of it. But at the end of the day, bruh, we didn't go through a wilderness like that. When we look at the first wilderness, they were being, that was their training field. They didn't, for example, there's certain things that that's kind of up in the air with the Sabbath day, right? People celebrate the Sabbath day different ways, all different ways right now. Back then in the wilderness, their training field, if they didn't know, do you think we can gather sticks on the Sabbath day? They found out that they couldn't because the Lord killed them, right? And the Lord was trying to teach them not to be carnal and not to covet other nations. What he do? The dude, I forgot his name. I think it starts with an N. He, I don't know if his name was Nadab. I can't remember, but he stole a Babylonian garment, right? And thought he was hiding from the Lord, and the Lord, killed him and his whole family. So that was teaching them, hey, look, stop being carnal over these earthly possessions. So there was a training field. Now, in Corinthians, this is, he was in a Roman captivity, right? We're not the same people from the wilderness for us. So he got to feed them with milk because we become such a carnal people. Even to this day, we've become such a carnal people. So that's why we have to go back to the basics and relearn this stuff, because we didn't have a wilderness to have a training field to learn the rights and wrongs, and then we was ready for the game, right? We're kind of playing catch up right now. We're doing the best that we can, and that's that milk that the Bible's talking about, man. We gotta learn first how to keep the Sabbath day. We gotta learn first how to not be carnal. We gotta learn first the simple things before we can even get into the meat. But you come into the truth, your passion just so intense that you just want to learn everything that's deep. You know what I'm saying? But Colin, you said Matthew 18.
Khan. And the dude you talking my name was a Khan, right?
Oh,
That stole the Babylonian garment. But yeah, a lot of times again, and I can attest to this too, man. When I first came into the truth, man, I was so eager to get out and teach the word, because at the end of the day, I, when I realized, what I was learning and how beautiful it was, man, I was so eager to want to tell people, and I seen the examples of people doing it on the streets, so I wanted to do it right then and there. You know what I'm saying? But um, that's the same thing as when you have a child playing youth sports, right? And they don't know the basic things about the sport that they play, but they see professionals do it, and now they want to go out and get in the ring just like a professional. There's a certain level of training and development that you have to go through in order to, I guess you could say, in order to be a peak athlete. Now, mind you, I'm using terms relative to sports, but pick up what I'm putting down, man. I'm saying that as someone in the truth, right? You got to go through a certain level of training in order to be a certain level of ready and preparedness. But at the same time, to the overall message, you don't have to boo-boo on one aspect of training thinking that, oh, that's not what's going to get it. What's going to get it is this way, right? Because everything is necessary for you to go through. Even the simplest thing that you think about. You may be in a rush, and I know we probably all gone through this before. You may be in a rush one day, and then you drop your darn keys, right? That nothing bothers you more than that. When you get out the house and then you start dropping the stuff or fumbling over stuff. Or when you in a rush and you just feel like people are driving extremely slower than usual today. All of those things are a part of helping you, teaching you patience, right? Those are part of things that people still learn even after even after their children, right? You learn that into adulthood that some people have to work on their patience. So the Lord puts them in situations to truly exemplify patience, right? Now, somebody would go on their story and praise that they exemplified patience by not, I guess you could say not getting angry that they were running behind and people were driving slow, and they exemplified patience, and they would go on their story, make a video about it, and somebody would come and say, "Oh, that ain't the real, that ain't truly the work of the Lord. You learning anything? You only gonna learn stuff by, actually, going to the scriptures and read it, and that's not true. Again, everything has its purpose, right? Everything has a purpose, and there's a reason why babies drink milk before they eat meat. There's a reason why, adults tend to drink or tend to eat more meat and bread than they do drink milk. But like I always say, it's never nothing wrong with going back to the foundations of things. I say that on a numerous amount of lessons because I hold it to be true. That it's never anything wrong with, as an adult, still wanting to drink milk sometimes. Why? Because it's necessary to remind you from whence you came. The reason I say that is because in that same video that the football coach dropped, he said he used a college player, right? I'm just giving y'all outlook of the video. I wish I would have went ahead and played it, but he said that imagine thinking that an agility ladder is going to teach you how to do this. And this was make open field cuts when you have a defender flying at you, right? Everybody knows an agility ladder is not meant to teach you that, right? But he was trying to shun agility ladders for the sake of teaching another aspect of football development. The problem with the post was, or the irony with the post was, he used two college players to show the open field cut. Deuce Vaughn, running back at Kansas State, made an open field cut when they played Alabama, I think, in the Sugar Bowl. And he used that as his video, right, to say that this is better than the agility ladder. But on the agility ladder portion of the video, he had an NFL receiver doing the agility ladder. Now, y'all may not understand, but that's just ironic because if you understand the progression of certain careers, right, career trajectory, everybody has that in whatever field that you work in. There's always going to be some sort of career trajectory, right? So the career trajectory for those who play football is you play little league, you play middle school, you play high school, you play in college, then you go to the pros, right? So he was using the highest level of football, somebody that's playing at the highest level of football in the NFL, the National Football League, a clip of them working on the ladder. He used that to diss the ladder drills. That doesn't make sense because it's the highest level of football you can play, and they're using the very instrument that you're saying that they shouldn't use to help them be a better player or to help them be good at doing a certain thing on the football field. Well, obviously that ladder helped get them some sort of right if they're in the NFL still using it. The same thing in life, man. We got to stop. I guess you could say nitpicking at the small things or the small or the childish or some of the milkish type of scenarios and situations that we go through in life, right? Some people still deal with temptation that they experience from 10, 12 years old, but some people may shun you for saying, dang, you still struggling with so-and-so, so-and-so. Pray for that, brother. Pray for that sister. But it's always necessary that certain things happen in life, right? Because all of it is to make you better to an extent. I'm not saying go flirt with temptation from 10, 12 years ago. What I am saying is at some point, you're going to graduate from X, Y, Z. You don't have to shun the things that help get you there, right? You don't have to do away with certain aspects of the Bible just because you graduated to certain aspects of the Bible. I don't have to do away with the milk because I feel like I'm on a little bit more meatier topics and more breadier topics now, right? I can always go back to the milk because that's the thing that helped nurture me, right? Now, where we at? Oh, let's read this real quick. And Matthew 18. Let's start at 1.
Matthew 18:1. At the same time came the disciples unto Jesus, saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, verily I say unto you, except ye be converted, and become as little children, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven.
Con. Now let's read through verse 6, Salaki, because I want to make an emphasis on that point.
Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven.
Hey, real quick, you got to humble yourself as a little child, man. Again, everything, there's a purpose. There's a reason why you go through the things you go through. There's a reason why you read what you read. There's a reason why you study what you study, regardless of what stage of development you are. If you're on me, it's nothing wrong with going back to reciting the 10 commandments. There's nothing wrong with going back and reciting the fruits of the spirit, right? All of that stuff is to help you be great, right? All of that stuff is to help you at I guess you could say expound in wisdom, right? Let's keep reading.
Con, and who shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone, Slakia, were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea.
Right. Man, we got to stop offending the little ones, man. We got to stop offending the little man. We got to stop offending the little children, because at the end of the day, the things that they go through aren't minute. One thing about parents, and I do it too to my son. I do it too to my son. I try not to offend him so much, and I got to stop doing that. But I'm not talking about physically abused. What I'm talking about is when my son cry, sometimes I tell him, you ain't got nothing to be crying about. Or I tell him, man, if you understand the bills that I gotta pay, you wouldn't be crying. If you realize how good you got it, you wouldn't be crying. You need to stop all that crying. That's not necessarily good for children's development. Why? Because I don't want my son to be a crybaby, but at the same time, I gotta realize, put things in a perspective. He's a child. Some of the experience some of the experiences that he is having are new. They're new experiences to him. He never experienced them in his life before. He's only 2 years old. So therefore, some things that are going to make him cry are necessary for his development, right? And it ain't for me to sit up here and be like, man, that wasn't nothing, man. That wasn't nothing. You'll be all right. Sometimes you just got to remember as a parent, yeah, you want your children to be strong. You want your children to be, you know what I'm saying, being able to handle pressure and pain to a certain extent, right? But at the same time, putting it in perspective, I'm not saying I directly offend my son by saying that, but it could be offensive to him for me to minute the problems that he goes through as a little child. He may not understand it right now, but as he gets older, he'll be like, Dad, why are you always telling me to stop crying, this, that, and the third? Right? Children, never say kids, right. So the thing about it is that we have to remind ourselves to be practical and understand that everything serves a different purpose. Everything is not for the same reason, right? Again, it's not for the agility ladder to teach you how to sprint a 40-yard dash. It's not for the agility ladder to teach you how to jump high. It's not for the agility ladder to teach you how to read a defense, right? The same thing with certain things pertaining to the milk. Certain things in the milk aren't to teach you the deep mysteries and prophecies and breakdowns of the scriptures, right? Understanding certain prophecies is not going to come by, the 10 commandments. Now, hold on. I'm not saying that living by the 10 or studying the 10 won't help you understand it. What I'm saying is that certain prophecies require you to do a little bit more in-depth dive into history, into certain other things other than just reciting honor thy father and thy mother, right? But nonetheless, the message is still the same. We got to remind ourselves to put ourselves in the child's shoes sometimes, and we got to remind ourselves to remember the benefits of this travail that we experienced as a child and how it helped develop me as a man or as a woman in the truth, right? We can't be so quick to want to shun the things that helped us get to where we are. Even if you disagree that they're good for training or not, regardless, if the Lord had you go through it, he had you go through it for a reason. So you got to take advantage of the revelation that comes with every situation that you're put in, regardless of how big or how small. Regardless if you're 40 years old, experiencing some of the youthful temptation that was around you, you got to cast that temptation down. Don't be so quick to beat yourself up, man. I'm 40. Man, cast that down, pray, and thank the Lord for overcoming this temptation. Thank the Lord for going through certain adversities that you go through, right? Because they all make us better to an extent, right? But I don't have nothing else to add to the. Oh, wait, I did want to go real quick to Romans 12. Let's go to Romans 12 real quick, right? I wanted to make a point. I want to make a point in Romans 12, right? Scroll down a little bit. Let's start at verse 4, and we just gonna hit a couple quick verses. I'm gonna just let you read through. We can read verse 4, we can read verse 5, and we can read verse 6, and then we can read verse 9. 4, 5, 6, 9. I'm gonna let you read through. I won't interrupt.
Romans chapter 12 and verse number 4. For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office, so we, being many, are one body in Christ, and every one members one of another. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith. Let us be without dissimulation, abhor that which is evil, cleave to that which is good.
Right. So let love be without dissimulation. That means don't be showing no fake love, right? Hate which is evil, cleave to that which is good. But the other things that the brother was read is how we have different spiritual gifts. We all have different spiritual gifts, right? So the point I wanted to emphasize with the lesson is that, again, we're talking about an agility ladder. Now, y'all may not know what an agility ladder looks like, right? But it's pretty much a ladder that you put on the ground and you use it to help with your footwork, right? Better yet, Salakia, let me just give an example of what an agility ladder looks like so y'all can actually see it. Salakia, hold on. Salakia. So if you've never seen an agility ladder before, I was trying to show. Well, yeah, I was trying to show my camera because I had one out, right? But this is an agility ladder, or you can see it on the screen that the brother put up, right? So this is what you use to help get your footwork right. This agility ladder has a different purpose than the tackling dummy, right? The tackling dummy has a different purpose than the hula hoop. The hula hoop has a different purpose than the sled. The sled has a different purpose than the helmet. The helmets have a different purpose than the shoulder pad. The same way we all have different spiritual gifts. You know, we all don't have the same spiritual gift. And it's not for me to shun anyone's, I guess you could say, purpose because mine is better, or this one will help me get to X, Y, and Z. If you have somebody that's good, that's great at knowing prophecy, but that's terrible at understanding how to break down or can't, you know what I'm saying? What is it called? Not break down tongues, but I'll use the word break down tongues for lack of a better word. That can't interpret tongues, right? That's not to say, oh, he that interpret tongues is better, or he that can interpret tongues but can't break down prophecy is better than, you know. We got to get out this comparison of talents and gifts. We got to see how our gifts or what their purpose is for, and we got to use them accordingly, right? So that's the only point I wanted to make, because again, the whole lesson was centered around the video post and how I disagree with the notion that you have to shun one gift to exhort another. You don't have to do that, because we're all one body in Christ, and we all are working towards to get to the kingdom. And every gift that someone has is a part of development and teaching you how to be a better player to an extent, if you catch my drift. But with that, I ain't got nothing else to add. Do brothers have anything they want to add to the lesson? Kane. Well, with that, man, we can sign off. I can say Shabbat Shalom. I'm outside with it right now, but brothers finna get ready to go to camp here shortly. So, all in all, just remember different things for different purposes, because at the end of the day, everybody has a purpose. We all have different spiritual gifts. There's different appointed times for certain things. There's a difference in everything, but at the end of the day, all things work together, right? But we're the brothers from Hopeful Elect. We say Shabbat Shalom. Most High willing, this lesson was edifying. All praise, glory, and honor be to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We say Shalom.
Shalom.